Right now, the NBA world is still waiting for the results of two of the biggest stars of the past decade requesting two pretty tough trades. James Harden seems pretty hell-bent on going to the Clippers and leaving the team that he literally wanted to be on 16 months ago. And Dame is finally trying to leave Portland after waiting way too long, and he's picking a team that has some pretty weak packages given who he is. Even with Kevin Durant last summer, we knew he loved the idea of joining Phoenix. The Suns, they were a team that always had a good to great package for KD, so that trade felt more realistic. Obviously, it took a little bit of time, but we see how that trade is going now. Miami, they don't really have the most favorable packages for a player that's coming off of probably his best year of his career. Last year was Dame's best in points, and it was his most efficient. Even only playing 58 games, he had the most 40-point plus games out of anybody. He was the only player to have multiple 60-point games, and obviously he had that historical 71 ball. All of this is great individually, but with what Portland seems to be demanding for all of what I just mentioned, and what the team he wants to play for realistically has to offer, it seems to be somewhat hurting Dame now. Today's video is sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped is back with a few products to make sure you're feeling cool, trimmed, and fresh, especially downstairs. Let's start with their Ultra Smooth package. This kit features an easy 3-step shaving system to help you smooth and protect some of your more sensitive areas confidently. Step 1 is their crop exfoliator. This you can easily use in the shower. It exfoliates the skin completely and it reduces those annoying ingrown hairs. Step 2 is the crop gel that smoothly prepares the skin for the shave. Step 3 is the crop shaver with 3 precision blades with extra wide lubricating strips and a pivoting head for the best shave at really any angle. Also, they have these extremely comfortable Boxers 2.0. These boxers features 6 different colors, or you can buy them in a pack of 3 and pick a style. They literally have a dedicated space for your junk to breathe, and you don't even have to worry about tags or any of that other uncomfortable stuff that boxers typically have. If you guys want to be cool and fresh for the summer, go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off plus free international shipping with my promo code SWISH at checkout. That's 20% off plus free international shipping only at manscaped.com.
How y'all doing? Welcome to Philly. James, this question is for you. I guess it's a 2-part question. Why did you want out of Brooklyn, and why did you want Philadelphia to be your destination?
Originally, when I was going through everything I was going through, in Houston, Philly was my first choice. It just didn't happen. So
James Harden is obviously one of the best, most dominant players the game has ever seen. Yeah, we could talk about his shortcomings in the playoffs. We can laugh about him not being in the best shape nowadays. We can even talk about his trade request trend that he continues. But none of that can take away from some of the most dominant basketball we've ever seen for a significant stretch of the 2010s. Even if you didn't necessarily like how he did it, his last 5 years in Houston were like all-time level scoring. In his last 5 years in Houston, he averaged nearly 32. The second most behind him was Steph at around 27. He had 2,000 plus more points than second best Dame. And even with all that scoring, he was still one of the best playmakers in the entire NBA. He had the second most total assists in this span. And not only that, playoffs excluded, he was one of the most reliable, if not the most reliable star on a night-to-night basis in the entire league. In his last 5 years with Houston, he played the most minutes out of anybody in that span. He was second in games played. He only missed 19 games in 5 years, and he always carried that team on his back, keeping Houston afloat. We know Houston, they never won it all, but they had the 3rd best record in that half decade. But since he's left, his career has been extremely weird. He left Houston in a strange, very unprofessional way, reportedly asking for John Wall over Russ. They made that happen just for him to take his way out of Houston. Then once he got to Brooklyn, playing beside Kyrie and Kevin Durant, so obviously he doesn't have to score that much, he completely reshapes his game into more of that facilitator role, and he thrives. He's James Harden. Played some of the most efficient, clean basketball of his entire career. Just for him to immediately battle injuries, miss his first playoff game ever, ironically enough when it looked like it was his best chance to really get that championship. Crazy. Then his last year in Brooklyn, he looked somewhat washed for certain parts of the season, requested his second trade in like 14 months to Philly where he had another playoff meltdown. He saved his reputation a bit by taking a pay cut last summer, but now this summer, after everything he and the MVP just did, literally 1 game away from the conference finals on their home court, he's back in the news with his 3rd trade request in 3 years. Kyrie Irving may be one of the only players in any sport that I've actually seen get more productive in his respective sport while simultaneously seeing his value diminish. Since leaving Boston, he's averaged 27 points for 4 straight years. As great as he was before LeBron, with LeBron, after LeBron in Boston, he never did that for his first 8 years. There's only been 14 50-40-90 seasons. In 2021, he joined that extremely rare club. Last season, in the middle of the year, he went from Brooklyn to Dallas with arguably the most ball-dominant player in the entire sport, and he got more efficient and his production didn't drop 1 bit. Just last season, he was 1st in 4th quarter points per game. We know Kyrie to be one of the more poised clutch closers in the NBA. And despite all of that, his value or his market was still essentially a 0. The contract he just got from Dallas is generally viewed and graded as a negative, and it has nothing to do with basketball. It's because Dallas, they were pretty much bidding against themselves. Kyrie didn't really have much options. He and KD paired together in 2019 just to play 74 total games together, and KD had a better record without him. For whatever reason, whatever team he joins, despite how great it looks on paper, it never truly reaches its potential. Last year, Dallas didn't fail because of Kyrie. Their problems were way deeper than just Kyrie. I talked about it in multiple videos. But it doesn't look good that they collapsed once they got him, especially since that's really been his trend since, let's be honest, leaving LeBron. Kyrie's still obviously one of the most magical, dynamic talents the game has ever seen. But since leaving Cleveland, his productivity and his talent isn't quite matching what you would expect his trajectory team-wise to be, especially with some of the talent and teams he's been on. Chris Paul is now on the Warriors, and it feels like one of those moves that we'll cringe at in a few years. Similar to Shaq in Boston or D-Wade in Chicago or even D-Wade in Cleveland, where you look at it like it never quite felt right in the beginning. In a few years past, we knew it was never really the move. Chris Paul is now on his 5th team since 2017, and the way he's been passed around as a legend has been insane. Houston basically sent Chris Paul to OKC for his career to die, and in Chris Paul fashion, he got them to the playoffs and completely rose his stock. Phoenix, that was really his best chance to win a championship, but that failed when he seemed to age every time the expectations rose. In 2021, after being up 2-0 in the finals, where I really thought they were going to win that championship, they failed. In 2022, after having their 2nd best regular season ever and the best in like Phoenix Suns history, they failed again early in embarrassing fashion. And last year, after getting KD and becoming overwhelming favorites to win it all, he aged, he got hurt, and it failed again. And now he's on Golden State. Now Chris Paul, the point guard, he's on the bench of the team and the player that haunted the majority of his prime. And if he doesn't win, look at the top 10 most winning players since 2011. He's literally the only player on this list without a championship. 11th is James Harden. And Dame, I put him on here because of his situation now and how dominant he's really been historically without anything to show for it. About a month ago, Dame finally asked for a trade, and currently the process, it just feels stalled out, tedious, and weird. Portland, I don't think they should just take any old package from Miami because that'd be stupid. But at the same token, I don't even know what other options they have because Miami feels like the only bidders. Right now, Dame is 33. He's one of the most dominant players of our era. He's been replaced by Portland position-wise in the middle of this stalling trade request. Not to mention, and I said this multiple times, and this is why this thing has to end, he has the 3rd worst playoff record amongst players that qualify, and the only 2 players were actually once his teammates. Not to mention, he has the most 60-point games since 2016 and the 2nd most 50-point games, and he's still yet to play with another all-star in his prime. Not to mention, he's burning himself out every time he makes the playoffs because he plays the 3rd most minutes per game in the playoffs since 2016. This man has to leave, and right now, it don't even feel like it's moving. This literally feels like 2 of the biggest problems of the last decade doing the fusion dance. Loyalty and why it's diminished and why it doesn't really have that much value unless you're like Steph playing on a contender, and player empowerment, and when it's abused, how ugly it can actually look and get. If you guys like this video, I could have easily put Russell Westbrook on this list. He obviously fits 5 teams in 5 years as an MVP. We know that, but Russ looked like he found a home, so I'm leaving him alone. I just want him to prosper now. Follow my social media sites, turn on post notifications, do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, as always, stay tuned.